Northern Tour preview show, powered by Defender. Embrace the impossible.
Although we don't talk about these things as a team, at the back of your mind, you remember it.
Mark Robinson has come out with a statement saying the performances during the series have been unacceptable from the All Blacks.
With Peter O'Mahony referring to Sam Cane as a Richie McCaw.
You know, the one thing I'm looking forward to on Saturday morning is Rico Ioane silencing the Irish crowd. That's what I'm looking forward to.
We look at it and embrace it like it's a good challenge for us. It's do or die, it's just like World Cup stuff.
They won't stop him! Dan Carter looks for support. Leicester firing alive, Nuku! Towards the outside, Becky Tower! And he gets it through Dan Carter! Opens them right up, Richie Morgan. Look at that! Well done! Andy Salvia busting through! He's offloaded it, and they're in! Oh my goodness! They have been so convincing! Has there ever been a finish to a test match quite like this? There has been no way! Look out, New Zealand! The Irish are coming!
Oh yeah, it has become one of the great rugby rivalries, and this week it sees us in Dublin, Aviva Stadium, the All Blacks taking on Ireland again. A bit of a grudge match. Now Ireland have won 28 of their last 29 matches at Aviva Stadium, the only other stadium in the world I can think that's got numbers like that. Jeff Wilson, Eden Park. Not as good as Eden Park, though, we know that. Jeff Wilson, Mills Molina, with his new hip alongside me. Mills, I'm surprised you can sit on the chair. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm pumped for this week. Looking forward to this game, eh?
Did that bring back a few memories for you? Like, I tell you what, all of a sudden the fire once again. It's only Thursday night. We've got to wait a couple of days.
I don't want to wait. I'm very excited. I think so many people are ready for this. We actually have a team on the ground over in Dublin. We've got Taylor, JK and Justin, who we are going to chat to a little bit later on. But firstly, I'd like to talk to you boys about the hype, the buzz, just the initial thoughts on this game and what we can expect come Saturday morning here in Aotearoa.
Well, it's more what's come off the field, really. I mean, I don't think you've ever anticipated a game so much than this one because of the spice that sort of come with it. The Rugby World Cup, obviously, Ireland coming down to New Zealand and beating us in that sort of series. So there's all that added stuff to it. And we haven't even got to the game. And I think that's probably what's caused all this sort of, I suppose, commotion in some ways, Jeff.
Well, this generation of Ireland player has tasted success against the All Blacks. They've tasted more wins than losses. So ultimately, they believe and they think they want revenge. That's what they're trying to take from what happened last year. That's not going to be easy, but they're at home. They've got all this advantage. But I tell you what, this All Black team, they'll be wanting to set a standard as well and make a mark.
That is going to be some interestingly hostile environment, I imagine, when they walk out at Aviva Stadium. Talk us through this All Black side that is getting ready to take them on this weekend. A couple of changes to them, and how do you feel about it? Yeah,
it is a couple of changes, but it's still a fairly settled side. I think Asafa Moore, he comes as this is possibly his biggest test match in the number 2 jersey. Tuipulotu, he passed an injury scare throughout the week, so he takes up his spot in the number 5 jerseys. Lucy's stay intact. They're really starting to form a nice combination. The big one, Damien McKenzie back in the driver's seat, number 10, and consistency also out the back, and Barrett, Ioane, Telea, and obviously Jordan and Clark. Great impact off the bench. George Bell, he comes in, he takes cover for the hooker position. And I suppose Stephen Perofeta back in the fold as well in jersey 23. Good-looking bench.
Yeah, a very different-looking All Black side, though, than the one that played at the World Cup last year. If you then transition to what this Ireland team are going to bring and the players they have, and they bring in a couple of guys who didn't play against the Springboks earlier on in the year, one particular halfback, but they've lost Tadhg Furlong, so he's been replaced by Finlay Behlem up front, but they're Byrne, Van der Fleer, Doris, that combination, that loose forward combination is outstanding. And then Jamison gives Gibson Park. He's critical to this team at halfback and what he brings. And the other Kiwis, I say Kiwis, they're Irish now, but Kiwis, let's be honest, developed here. James Lowe and Bundy Aki, outstanding players who have delivered at the highest level. And you talk about experience off the bench. Henderson, Murray and Omani. Let's not forget Omani. He's going to start something. There's no doubt about it. He'll bring some fire. But this Ireland team, look, plenty of experience. Plenty to like about what they've done in the Six Nations, but it's all on in this game for me.
I think there's going to be plenty of fire. There is no doubt about it. But we talk about rivalries, and one of the great All Black rivalries I remember growing up with was obviously the Wallabies. But now it's transformed. That Ireland really is and has been over the last 5, 6, or even more than that years, that this is a great rivalry. Back to 2016, I suppose, Chicago, when they first beat us, of course. If we have a look at the numbers here, I mean, quite extraordinary. Where has this come from? How has Ireland found a way to beat the All Blacks, and the number of times that they have beaten the All Blacks now, Mills?
Well, I think it's gone, a number of years where they haven't been successful. Both you and I have experienced it. They've never been a side that we've been a part of. But then, you beat them in Chicago, and then the question was asked, can they actually, push on and do that? And they've done that. To come down here to New Zealand and have a series win like they did, and convincingly, that's what sort of forged this intensity in this rivalry, Jeff, for me.
David Nusafora went as director of rugby to Ireland, and then Joe Schmidt went, and they started something. And then Farrell's taken it on board and taken them to the next level. They've become one of the best attacking teams in the world, and they've grown something along the way. And once you get the first game, Mills, once they got that first success, they started to believe. And yes, we've had back and forward, but you start creating history, and then you don't have to do firsts again, Mills. You can then build on that. And they came to New Zealand and they beat the All Blacks in a series.
And I know it was a bit of tongue-in-cheek in terms of the Kiwi influence in here, but I think the Irish, the Union in itself, Nusafora, they've done it probably the best. Introducing Hansen, obviously from Australia. Guys, when they initially went over about the eligibility rule, it wasn't really welcome. The Irish sort of fans didn't really feel that they needed that influence. I think they've done that really well, and the influence of those guys and the ability of now sort of creating their own sort of style of play. I mean, even their coaching staff, being over to Farrell and what he's brought on, it's been awesome.
There was some footage there of 2016 in the game that was, and I think that really shook everyone up because no one was expecting that. That was not on many people's bingo cards, I don't think. But if we look at 2022 and what happened there, do you think at some point, though, Ireland got in the All Blacks' heads because of what had happened, or was this just they were outplayed?
Yeah, when they're at home and they found a way to get across the line and get that very, very first one, when probably the All Blacks were at their strongest. When Chicago happened, I think we had Jerome Kano playing at lock, and it wasn't as though it was their number one side. All of a sudden, though, they got the result that they needed, and then they came to New Zealand. They came to New Zealand, Mills, and that almost confirmed what they created beforehand.
They brought niggle, and I think that was a big part of their plan. They did. They lost convincingly in that first test. The second test gave them confidence to go into Wellington, and they just added that bit of spice, and they found that sort of rhythm in their game, but they also found that extra bit of niggle that got right underneath the All Black skin, which we've never seen sort of before. And again, I go back to my point. This is what's created a lot of that rivalry.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff. And you have ex-players coming out, making their statements. We've got all sorts happening. Let's head over to Dublin now with Taylor Johnson, who's got a couple of lads alongside her. Now, tell us, it looks positively balmy where you are, but how has the hype been on the ground over in Dublin?
It certainly is mild here, but we're not expecting a mild reception at the Aviva, that is for sure. But the vibe on the ground, I mean, guys, what's it been like for you? I was at the supermarket the other day. The kids were talking about seeing the All Blacks on the street. At the hotel breakfast, that's all everyone's talking about. What's it been like for you, JK?
Yeah, they can't wait. I mean, All Blacks versus Ireland, like you mentioned in the studio, the rivalry's up there. Marshy and everyone's just really looking forward to it.
Yeah, they certainly are, and there's a lot of spice to this game, isn't there, already after the comments that we've seen coming out of both camps. And I've made it a personal mission to make my way around a few bars, drinking a few Guinnesses, just to get the real vibe as building into the big test. So it's been great.
In saying that too, there's actually quite a lot of All Blacks flags up around the bars. Plenty of Kiwis around here as well. But let's take a look at that Irish team and let's discuss it. Plenty of changes, obviously, since the last time we played them. No room for Henshaw. Furlong's injured. What have you made of it, JK?
Oh, for me, it's Sexton, really. We've sort of played by numbers. Sexton, you know exactly how organised he is. Crowley comes in for him. Are we going to see the same sort of organisation, Marshy? Gibson Park coming back from a little bit of an injury is really, really important just because he's so sort of vocal to that, the way they play. So for me, is this new era Is he going to be able to drive the football team around? But I guess Marshy's going to be up front as well.
Oh yeah, it certainly will be, like any test match, and they're a hardened pack, Ireland. And I was going to talk about the back row, but obviously Goldie was tuning into our rehearsal before we went on live, and he stole my talking point about the back row. But like any good scrum half, I'll pivot and say the back three as well, like Hugo Keenan, James Lowe, and Mac Hanson's back. That will be pivotal, how they deal with the All Blacks kicking game and how they counter-attack us. So they're a very dangerous back three.
That's our thoughts on the ground, Laura. What about you guys in the studio? What say you?
Well, look, we're all just incredibly impressed with you running the New York Marathon just the other day, actually, Taylor. I think you're brilliant, so congratulations to you. And it is a relatively, though, I mean, if you look at the numbers, the way they play their rugby, certainly at home, would you say that Ireland look the better team at the moment, even though the All Blacks came off that great win at Twickenham?
Well, they had a really important win against the Springboks this year, the second test match in the middle of the year, and to go into South Africa and to get that, I think was critical in terms of confirming their performances in the Six Nations. So overall, they're a team that understand who they are, the way they want to play. It's been seamless, really, Mills, the players who have come in for the players that have left. But getting success and continued success is what they needed to build on. And they've got that already. And to beat, like I say, to beat South Africa, something we couldn't do in 2 test matches, they've managed to do it. At the moment, you have to say there's a reason they're the #1 team in the world.
The one thing I would say, it has been a long time since they won and since they played together. And a lot of guys are coming together. They haven't got to warm up to get themselves ready for the All Blacks. The All Blacks are probably the best, although they didn't play as well as what they would have wanted to, or they still won last week. I think for the Irish, that first 15 or 20 or so minutes to get them to that intensity, that's crucial. If they don't leak points in there, they're right in it, because they do. When they go away, they're sort of like seamless. But it's a really good opportunity for the All Blacks as well, leading into this after the championship and whatnot, to get their game together and really hit, the Irish right from the get-go.
We talk about the Kiwi influence in this Irish team. Bundy Aki, I think very vividly of the images of him post that quarter-final in 2023, just absolutely heartbroken on his haunches there. He is so key for this team's success. What do you like about him, and you know that it's not going to take much for him to get up to take on the All Blacks?
He's world class. He was world class in the Rugby World Cup, and it came short. It ended up being short for him. But what he brings is that dynamic ball carrier. He's got the ability to offload. The fact he's a continuous threat. He's right on the line, Mills. He's a guy they can build their game around. But his combination with Ringrose, the fact they understand, the fact he makes good decisions, that's what he has become. He's become the all-rounder, the full package in the midfield.
I love the way they use him, because they can use him as a battering ram, they use him as a decoy runner. He's such a threat that you have to consider him. And then you've got Ringrose outside of him. The key for me is probably the guy on the inside, with Crowley. He hasn't played a lot of, I suppose, got himself to that sort of level. Those guys have been used to playing, outside, Johnny Sexton. And I know Crowley, took a big part in that in South Africa. But the fact is, he's got to get them going. His variety in how they use Bundy Aki and Ringrose will be crucial to them actually getting the result that they're wanting. That's the one.
One of the greatest games I think he played was the last time these two teams met, which was the quarter-final in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Let's go back, revisit it with the All Blacks, see how they felt being on the field.
Ireland quarter-final. It was cool with this game. We were written off. Our own country didn't believe. Some people in our country didn't believe we would do well.
I remember looking around and felt like the whole stadium was green, and almost automatically our backs are against the wall.
Jordy Barrett's kick is good.
We've had some massive encounters over the last sort of 7 or 8 years now, from the first time they beat us.
Having to make tackle after tackle here. Oh, boy, that's a tackle. Anton Leonard-Brown.
Yeah, for us, it was a chance for revenge.
We're defending and I'm just ready to try and pounce and get a turnover or penalty. But yeah, didn't get it. I sprayed the touchy, shouldn't have. And then all I heard was, Adi, get up. And it was Nug.
All Blacks desperate for a turnover. Can't get it there either.
But when the final whistle went and Sammy got the turnover, yeah, that was amazing.
Carried on by Keller. Here it is! Call it! Yes! That's the penalty! And that's the game!
Yeah, what a test match.
Probably one of my favourite games of my career. And Johnny Sexton.
Just reminded me why I won't ever bring a book out after I finish playing. I feel like some stuff you just let it Let it be.
Just let it be. I'm not sure Johnny Sexton did, in fact, let it be. The old sleeping dog's lie, not so much. That moment between him and Rieko Ioane, that has, well, that's really transcended, isn't it? That's become quite a thing, Jeff.
Yeah.
But it sort of speaks to how much it means to both teams, both players, and that whole situation. It was just, boy, oh boy.
You've mentioned niggle. There's a little bit more than niggle with these two teams now. I mean, the fact when you're part of history and you're on the wrong side of it, and that's what the All Blacks were. They're the wrong side of history when it comes to Ireland, this group. So when there are moments when someone's had your number, but in the biggest moment, and we were there, and this was the biggest moment for these two teams, since this rivalry really blossomed, ultimately, you can see why the All Blacks feel the way they felt, because when you're trying to prove a point, if you do it at a Rugby World Cup, it runs deep.
Yeah, it's a quick few sentences here, and it seemed like he got all his words out there, did he, Rieko Ioane? But it does. I mean, that goes on all the time. You know, that sort of stuff. It's great, I think, in this day and age that you can actually hear it. And good on Johnny Sexton for bringing it out. I initially thought, well, man, it's a bit of a sook move, but mate, if it sells your books, why not?
Bit of a sook move,
I think there's an edge here that probably these two teams. I think our relationship, the All Blacks' relationship with all the other teams around the world, is pretty good. Yeah. You know, the fact there's a real respect. But I think between these two teams, and that's why it meant so much, even for us commentating the game, it meant a lot for us because a lot had happened during that week. Even for us as Kiwis, just over there working on the game, we'd heard it, we'd copped it for about 7 days leading into that quarter-final.
Well, one of the great privileges of being involved in that Rugby World Cup, working with former players, was watching how much it means to you. And we've got some footage of just how much it meant to you guys and when that final whistle blew.
Mwanga has a go at the ball. He can't get it. Carried on by Callaghan. Here it is! Call it! Yes! The penalty! Yes! That's the penalty! And that's the game! All Blacks into the semi-finals!
Mills Muliaina, show me all your knuckles. Have you got all your hands left? What happened there?
Quietly just almost bit my finger off. But it does. I mean, that's what we felt, you know, as former players. And for a moment there, I actually forgot that I was commentating. I became a spectator. I became an All Black fan all the way over here.
There was only one professional going on there, and that was Nisbo. The rest of us, I'm yelling. I'm not supposed to be yelling at the time. JK was yelling at the same time as well. I think it was his fault.
I don't believe it for a second. We're going to cross over to Dublin now and find out how they are feeling about that Johnny Sexton moment. It really was one of the great moments of that quarter-final. Can we expect more of that come Friday night?
Yeah, it was interesting, Laura, because during the week, Andy Farrell actually said they don't pay any attention to that quarter-final and actually that there's been no revenge chat whatsoever in camp. Do you believe that, JK?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, rivalry comes from ability and respect in the opposition. Unfortunately, when I played, Ireland were easy beats. We used to beat them by 40 or 50 points sometimes, you know. You didn't know what was going to turn up. They'd send a really slack team down in the summer and we'd hate that. We'd think that was an insult. But rivalry comes from getting beaten, and that rivalry is real. Off the field, it's still the same. You know, there's a lot of banter around here, isn't there, Marshy? Everyone's really friendly, but we know that when the whistle goes, this gets horrible.
It does. But like back in our day, obviously, a lot of it didn't get picked up. But now it is very much picked up, and then it feeds off social media. So like Ireland, they gave us a spray, didn't they, when they won the series out in New Zealand? We gave them a spray when we won the one here last year at the Rugby World Cup. And that's just created momentum. And now everybody knows that there's niggle there, which is good. Yeah. It's good.
Well, we looked at the Ireland team before. Let's talk about the All Blacks. Just a couple of injury force changes, obviously, with the HIAs. But any area in particular that you're looking forward to seeing out against Ireland?
Well, I was taking Marshy's lead and having a pint of Guinness last night, because you have to when you're here, and this guy came up and said, we're going to attack your line out. I mean, they're always talking about, Safa Moore, and like you mentioned, Mills, it is probably his biggest test match. I was really, really impressed with what he did last week. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting battle up front. The All Blacks, I believe, have just about got their style right. If they hang on to the ball a little bit, they could have scored a couple of tries last week, but I think the combinations are going to be fundamental, Marshy.
They certainly are, as always, and getting in rhythm and in sync really quickly, that's important. You don't want Ireland to feed off a slow start or a poor start. Key guy for me, Rieko Ioane. Like, they're going to bring that blitz defence. There'll be space there on the outside. He's got to maintain his depth, have the ability when it's on to offload the ball and get it to our speedsters and our attacking weapons, the Jordans, the Clarks, etc. Massive game for him.
Lots of experience on the Ireland bench, but also some pretty good players on our bench as well, with Patrick Tuipulotu, and you caught up with him earlier, Sir JK.
Such a proud moment for Patrick Tuipulotu, who will lead the All Blacks out, becoming the 82nd All Black Test captain, the 7th player of Samoan heritage.
You've come a long, long way since I first met the young boy at the Blues, Patrick. Very, very quiet. You're now an amazing leader. You're captain of the Blues, also leading. How's that transition been for you?
Yeah, it feels like a long time ago. When I first come into the Blues as a young 21-year-old. But I think over those years, sort of learned more about myself, and certainly my leadership style was more actions and more serving people and serving my teammates. So not straying away too far from that. I think that's a big strength of mine, and the way I play hopefully leads others. And it's something I've come to enjoy as well. Certainly a privilege to lead Auckland and the Blues, and then to be able to do it against Japan for the All Blacks. Yeah, very honoured.
Well, since you've been involved, there's been a real evolving of our opposition, which is the Irish. There seems to be this real rivalry growing.
Yeah, certainly feel it. I think the results speak for themselves. I think I played against them in Chicago and we lost that. Obviously came in and played the Test series when they were in New Zealand and we lost that. So tough, very tough opposition, and obviously the World Cup result last year went our way. That all just makes for a great rivalry, and I think it makes rugby more fun when that sort of rivalry comes into it.
I'm surprised to see this impact Patrick Tuipulotu.
How do you prepare to come off the bench in such a critical situation?
Yeah, I suppose earlier on in my career, I sort of had the bench role as the young lot coming through. It was no different. On the bench, you can watch the game and you get a good feel for how things are going. I usually find that I get amped up a bit more if we're not doing very well. I can come on and actually be a bit more aggressive and have some more impact.
Yes, a very exciting matchup we have on our hands this weekend. Of course, Ireland taking on the All Blacks at their home turf. Now, let's talk about the bench that we saw. Did a great job at Twickenham. Will we see continued momentum from that? Will they be able to take plenty from what we saw at Twickenham into this matchup?
I think they're starting to find their groove, and that man we've just spoken about, he mentioned the fact, you get a really good feel. We don't understand how long, we'll know how long when you're going to get on there, but you've got to make immediate impact, and where that you get that is so important. He came on and he was instrumental, as did the other guys. Moore, he got into the game nice and early, 2 or 3 minutes into the game. I think they're starting to find, their understanding of that. They're bringing, they've got plenty of experience here. Sammy Penny now, plenty of height. I think they're pretty settled. Stephen Petofeta, on the other hand, as well. It's nice to see him back, and he would probably be the guy you'd say, okay, well, he probably hasn't had as much experience on there. What can he bring if he needs to come on?
Nice to see him there, getting an opportunity after starting at fullback for the All Blacks. It's a powerful bench for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the fact you got Toanga Fasi, Tosi Tuipulotu, plenty of size. Asafa Amur was on the bench. He's now starting in his biggest test match. You talked about that. And so much focus is put on his line-out throwing. Look, any hooker in the All Black jersey. But the rest of his game last weekend was really strong. His ability around the field, his ball carrying, his defence was brilliant. And remember, he's going 75 minutes. Yeah. Like, he's had to go the distance. So you think about how our scrum improved as the game went on. So he's had to keep working in those key areas. Now, there are a couple of throws, and that's an overthrow that's slightly missed, and then he missed one other. But the rest of his game was really strong. So I'm not concerned about the plan for him in this game. I think this is a great opportunity. This is one of those games where he can say, I am the number 2 hooker in the All Blacks behind Cody Taylor. I've got full belief in him.
OK, full belief in him. Let's cross over back to Dublin now and get their final predictions for the game. Who do you think's going to win? Will the crowd play a part? Taylor, what are you and the crew thinking?
I certainly think the crowd will play a part, but it is Ireland's first test in the autumn series. The All Blacks have played a couple games, so I am going to pick the All Blacks for this one. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think that, we were talking before how some of the stuff they did against England was amazing. So if they can get rid of some of those forced offloads, hang on to the ball one more time, they could have scored a couple of tries. So, I think if we can keep that style, we win.
Yeah, we will win, but it's not going to be easy. They're a very good side, and they've named an incredibly tough side for us to beat. But at the end of the day, fast start, get out there, believe in ourselves, And yeah, I'm looking forward to a good result for the All Blacks, but it's not going to come easy by any means.
Laura, that's what we're thinking here in Dublin. What way are you guys leaning?
Thank you guys very much. Well, I think the All Blacks all the way because they have had that game time experience, bit of cohesion. They know what they're doing. The bench looks good. But Ireland, you know, they're just, like we said, starting out. Who for you, Mills?
I think, before I'd say, this is going to be a tough game. But as you sort of tend to break things down, I like what we've got up front. I think we can handle that. I think our scrummaging ability and the guys that we've got up there and also off the bench, the start's going to be key for me. When you look at the start and where Ireland's come, they're coming into this and they've got to match that intensity. I think we win. I honestly believe that we'll be able to do it by 7+.
7+?
Yeah, and that's pretty big.
That's bigger than the margins. I certainly haven't got it at 7+. The more I go and look into this and their history at home and how good they are at home and how much it'll mean to them, they're talking about the fact we haven't looked back. No, it's in the back of your mind if you're a player. We've all been there when you want a little bit of revenge. I look at this. I love where we're going and heading, but it's been slow progress. We're not quite there. For me, the All Blacks win, but it's not by 7+. I think the margin will be small. I'm thinking less than 5. What do you think?
I'm thinking less than 5, but I'm very excited for what will be. Are you nervous, though? Bit nervous? Just a quick yes or no?
I'm not. I'm excited. This is a massive game. The intensity is going to be there. I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait.
That means you're nervous.
Yeah.
Because you're excited. I'm excited as well. I think this is a great contest. Great contest.
It's going to be a fantastic contest, and we, of course, have that all for you live and exclusive on Sky Sport. Now, this summer, Sky is preparing to switch the satellite we use to beam all your favourite shows and sport to homes around Aotearoa, New Zealand. We want you to be ready, so please look out for an email, a text, or a call from us so we can check and confirm you're all set for the Sky Summer Satellite switch. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll bring you all the action from Dublin this weekend. The All Blacks taking on Ireland again. We'll see you then.
Tour preview show, powered by Defender. Embrace the impossible.